Uh, Fun with accents, everyone. French dwarves, Swedish dwarves, Scottish dwarves. Adding some off-brand Dwarven IKEA franchise to the campaign. And yes, Rhodium suddenly catbutt. He came up. He said hi to you. He gave you the Eye of Sauron, and he left. So that's how that works, right? All right. You know what? I reckon we better do the things. Now, Rhodium. We all know because Blizzard tells us that trolls speak with a Jamaican accent, not dwarves. Trolls. Alright, so what kind of things are in Ravnica? Well, as far as we saw with the Unearthed Arcana Santa, there were 4 races that were presented. Loxodons, Simic hybrids, why am I derping? Wait, were there 4? Was I thinking of Eberron and the new races in Eberron? Oh, no. The Viashino and, who else? The Viashino, the Loxodons, the Simic hybrids, and... Oh, the Vidalcan. We just made a villain from the Vidalcan. You know, the blue people here. The Vidalcan, the Blue Man group. Slivers? Wouldn't that be something? Well, hey, you know what? The new Slivers are humanoid, right? So think about that. So it would be, I guess what? You have a sorcerer sliver character and a fighter sliver character, and they would share their abilities. Wouldn't that be an interesting concept, huh? It would almost be a, the new slivers are humanoid, King, because they're adapting to the planes, and they look humanoid now. They're not these little one-armed, it's my baby arm looking things. So, you know, the slivers would almost be a gestalt system, where you're just mixing and matching abilities from different classes. It would almost be multi-class the race. Or going back, you know, we're talking about 2nd edition D&D or 1st edition D&D, when dwarf was your race and your class. When you say, I'm going to play an elf, and that's you are the elf. Because an elf was your race and your class. A sliver could be kind of the same thing. What is the image next to the view more? I see view saved. Where is it saying view more? Oh, right here. Oh, this? That's a planeswalker. Actually, this planeswalker is hinted at in the concept of this campaign, by the way. Victor. Okay, here's the funny thing that just happened. Tucker remembered that I had described a strange skull in the temple to emit a warm glow, and I told them that was a memory waiting to be relived. What they don't know yet is that the memory reveals a secret word used to access the road to the Bergenwirth. 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 I can say it, Bergenwirth. Yes, so this planeswalker is mentioned briefly in the campaign, but when we were conceptualizing the PCs and the NPCs, we wanted to make sure that we're trying not to name drop major figures from Ravnica, because that can easily distract the story from the focus on the player characters that we developed and shift it onto our non-player characters. Well, Victor, that's why you encourage them to take notes. You know, have a notepad, and they write out things as they go along. Okay, so here's our two PCs, right? They're anti-heroes. We have a female Simic hybrid and a female Loxodon. They both ended up being neutral evil, so they're kind of these anti-heroes who are going to go on an adventure to really keep their protection racket, right? Their insurance for the neighborhood going in the face of the Orzhov Syndicate getting ready to cast a spell to collect the debts of the neighborhood as these poor people have fallen into. Yes, anti-heroes. They're so think of them like the Thunderbolts in Marvel or the Suicide Squad in the DC universe. Only our movies are gonna be better. And we've developed we've so many details and NPCs, and now it's time for us to weave it together and to make a Ravnican based outline or campaign outline. If there's really nothing to lose, Victor, and you don't want to take the time to roll random encounters, I allow for it. Not really like Batman, Golden. In fact, this is a good prompt, okay? Let's go over the information that was presented before we start building the campaign so we can all be on the same page. Last week, at the end of the week, we generated these two PCs. A female Simic hybrid who is neutral evil, and she's a folk hero. And number 9 indicated that some great power told her of her potential. And this is where the Planeswalker had come in. She had met with a Planeswalker. He was able to reveal some information that would lead her to develop her abilities. So she ended up becoming the Toxic Ray, quote unquote. Because she's a folk hero, you know, she's a hero of the people, and we said, okay, so she's evil, but she runs some kind of protection racket. You know, she charges people in the neighborhood money, and she keeps them safe from other bad people. So she loves her neighborhood, but she's employing herself by offering protection. Then we rolled a second character, this Loxodon character, who also turned out to be neutral evil and is a spy hired killer, okay? A warlock with the Fiend Patron Chain Pact. A Planeswalker is a very powerful magic user in Magic the Gathering lore. They can travel between worlds. And so we have another anti-hero or anti-heroine who is now known as Memory Fade as her hero name, even though neither of the ladies like the nicknames that the people gave them. Because Winifred wants to be called the Corpse Whisperer, but people call her the Toxic Ray. And Byra wants to be known as No One, but everyone calls her Memory Fade. And so we created some imaginary city block in Ravnica, and these two ladies are anti-heroes, charging the residents money to protect them against even worse people than they. Norton, dude, it has been a long time, Norton. It's good to see you again. You should see some of the Knoll figurines, including a champion of Yinogu that were cracked. So, off of these two PCs, this week we've been delving more into, all right, what is our setting? What are we talking about with Ravnica? Like, what are our concepts? What's it like to live in Ravnica, in the Undercity? Let's talk about the factions. And so, we were building these ideas. You know, how do people travel if not on foot? Who are the guildless? What are the guilds? You know, what could be the basic plot thought here? At risk of losing a chunk of their territory, the team of our... So we don't really have a superhero team for these two ladies, but the team must repay a massive debt to the Orzhov Syndicate, else face eviction. And eviction, by the way, means this. Where are you? Is it in another tab? Maybe, is it not in this set? I thought it was called Cruel Eviction. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, Merciless, that's why. So, Merciless, the Orzhov Syndicate is going to cast this spell on their district because so many people living there owe them money that they're going to collect. They're foreclosing on the neighborhood. And so this is kind of the timer of the campaign and ultimately what our PCs hope to avoid. They may be criminals or they may be mobsters and shake people down for money, but you can't get money if there's no one around to pay you. And so this was their motivation. We were trying to draw on cards that exist for inspiration and guidance. Yes, Norton, the Uwu is here. And Norton does indeed get 50 experience points for taking out a lion. Victor says they triggered the memory. Well, hopefully then they're writing down these clues for later so that they can make the connections. And then we started talking, all right, in a story, you know, you need protagonists. We have antagonists, foils, mentors, or other things. And so we were thinking, all right, so these two ladies probably have some kind of... The Norton Uwu ship has sailed. Aw. That they have some kind of Demir facilitator who sells them very spicy information, weapons, spells, kind of like the merchant from Resident Evil 4. There is some kind of a Boros foil that chases them or gives them moral lectures. For example, Think of Inspector Zenigata from Lupin the Third. He chases down Lupin. He hopes to catch him. Sometimes he does, but lets him go for reasons. And so we wanted someone to actually be after them, or at least apply pressure from behind. There's an Azorius kind of quest giver who starts and can end the story as a Gandalf figure. Because ultimately, one way to stop the eviction is to get an injunction from the Azorius Senate saying, no, you can't cast this spell or you can't evict people. And that's an end goal that can be satisfied in several ways, but only the Azorius can do it, and so they have an Azorius contact who acts as kind of like an item collector from the different quests that they undertake. Pouty, so you have Elemental Evil, Monster Menagerie, and a Rage of Demons also, Pouty Lips. There is also a Rage of Demons over here. Hey, Daly, good to see you. Welcome. How did your session go? Everyone, Daly actually was here in the beginning of the broadcast and was taking a break since he was playing some D&D himself. And hello again, Diadems. Then we have the villain is someone in the Orzhov Syndicate who is looking to evict the district. Then we talked about the setting, and we looked at different land cards. It's Monster Menagerie 1, Pouty Lips. Monster Menagerie Uno. Un. Not deux, not trois, mais une. Yeah, I think you did end up spit roasting Fluffy Sheep. And he said that was okay because he was used to being hunted and eaten by apex predators. So he took it rather well. It was a great first session on Twitch. Ended up being all RP, no combat. It was very fun. That is great, Daily. If you want to provide a link to the channel so we can watch the VOD, or in future sessions, if you want to share that on our Discord or otherwise share it with us so we can watch, I'd personally love it. I want to see what you've been up to. Victor, well, the session ended with the players returning back to the Sanctuary. I mean, it's a good hub, right, Victor? It's nice not to get murdered in your sleep. So anyway, we looked at a bunch of magic cards, and here's our setting in the Undercity. And then we talked about, all right, so here's main plot NPCs. Do we have just some, I guess, some background NPCs? And so here we have this average Joe Rakdos worker. We have some kind of a rogue Is-It scientist who lives in the neighborhood and is, very Is-It-like. And an actual kindly Orzhov priestess who taught them the value of cooperation and selflessness, and that's probably what got her murked by her own order. And that ended up actually being Byra's bond. The night is only at its beginning. How ominous, Victor. The planeswalker that set the toxic ray on her path, his name is Ral Zarek. And then we discussed possible dungeons. There could be a stealth dungeon where they have to sneak into an Azorius Chantry, or through some Dimir sewers to find a secret. And that could be a bunch of combat, point A to point B. Or you could have like a very trap and hazard heavy dungeon, or even mixed with monsters. And that would be something like Is-It Steam Pipes. And yesterday then, to catch up now, we decided to go over, to make our NPCs stand out a little bit more. And so we did that here with the cleric, the passed on Orzhov priestess, as well as the Boros Zenigata figure that has been chasing after our anti-hero PCs. And we ended up, of all things, because DJ Delta recommended a card to us to represent our Minotaur Boros Wojek. Here, I'll go over to it here. He recommended that we find the card Boros Reckoner. And when I did an image search for it, this is what I got. It was a blingified version of the Boros Reckoner. And I mean, number one, I giggled. For a good long while, I certainly giggled. And I said, you know what? This works. Let's use this as inspiration. So here we have someone who's working for the militia, the police, whatever. He used to be a former gang member, right? He used to be in the Rakdos cult. Until something happened and he wanted to turn his life around and work on behalf of the police as like an anti-gang unit, some kind of scared straight program, something like that. And so then we developed this Minotaur character more fully, and now we have two really, really fleshed out NPCs. After that, we went through the process of... we went through the process in the DMG of how you would go about making a dungeon, and we gave some considerations for it as well. Actually, was that also... Where was that? Okay, it wasn't there. Occupation and history. Yeah, that's the NPCs. Ah, here we go. So this was the basic outline that our from the DMG that our dungeon was going to follow and take. It was themed around Is It Boiler Works, so I had a bunch of images from the Magic the Gathering cards that featured such construction. And then we randomly rolled, and we got a jungle. How do you have a jungle in a city? And we got to it. An exotic location. We went into a random dungeon creator. And so we had a seed idea, and we cultivated it through the randomness that the DMG offered through its various charts and suggestions. And now we come to the place where, all right, let's make two villains. Let's make the main villain of the story, and then let's make the villainous creator of the Death Trap dungeon that we generated last night. And by doing this, we took someone who was like, oh, it's a big banker fat cat with the Orzhov Syndicate, you know, whatever, you know, the type of person, oh, I wonder what the poor people are doing today. You know, some sort of generic rich banker, corrupt priest style villain. And by going through the process in the DMG, we really fleshed him out more. Oh, what did I miss? Diadem's meta giggling. Need to have that happen on stream so we can clip it. Well, it's on VOD if you go back last night, Diadems. Can you clip VODs? Victor, you want to hear how to make an optional dungeon interesting? Just randomize. Yeah. Yep. In fact, well, we didn't get into the construction of the dungeon because there are random charts for it all over the DMG. You're absolutely correct, Victor. Well, so there is a concrete jungle. We brought up that term, but the Is It Boiler Works was emitting steam and hot water, and the heat and the water and such was making plant life flourish in almost like this jungle swamp. Condensation would trickle down back. It's sort of like a rainforest effect. You know, there was fog and heat and humidity. And so this part of the city became a jungle because this Is It Boiler Works was spewing steam and everything out into it. And Memory Lapse says the conclave. So the conclave of what, Memory Lapse? Oh, the Celestia? Well, what about the Celestia conclave? And so we randomly rolled, okay, So he's a humanoid cultist. Oh, actually, we had it be a gang warfare turf between the Gruul and the Golgari. So the Celestia we actually actively discluded from being brought up. Not that we couldn't touch on all the guilds, but part of that was the reason why there's a Boros NPC following them around is because for those who are guildless, the Boros protect them, and the Conclave is supposed to, the Celestia is supposed to kind of care after them and provide them guidance. Well, in this part of the Undercity, the Celestia Conclave doesn't have a presence. And so it's really just up to, the authority figures in the Boros Legion to do so. So Boros is kind of representing Celestia also as a protector and guide, just as the Dimir Contact is also representing some other clans. And so as we built it, bit by bit, you'll be able to go back and watch it, but we added a tremendous amount of story and character and depth to this villain, who is actually now arguably a sympathetic figure. This is a villainous character, yes, but perhaps one that's not just, Butters, like Butters from South Park's, Professor Chaos. Or some stereotypical, okay, I'm going to suppress poor people and blah, 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 blah. We've heard of those villains before. Going through this process really made a three-dimensional, maybe not likable villain, but an understandable villain. Yes, Pouty Lips. Yeah, Victor, be well. Thank you for popping in and telling us how your D&D sessions are going. And so the next character that we made into an NPC villain was the person who made this Death Trap dungeon. Who does that? But Butters, playing Professor Chaos, a one-dimensional blah, blah, blah. No, we made actually a very interesting, maybe not as sympathetic villain. Because this guy's a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, if you get what I'm saying. But he now has reason. He has an identity, too, maybe. And he has a purpose for what he's doing. If you, as the DM, know that, you can have a lot better... you can have a much better time improvising and adapting your story and your NPC's words to whatever the players are bringing up, because you know the motivation of the villain, even if your PCs don't, and your villain doesn't have to monologue everything to have an exposition frenzy in order to get that across. Oh, I got you, Rhodey. And so now this brings us to our tabula rasa, our blank slate, and I want to go through a by-the-book session on how to create a campaign. All the time, Golden. All the time. Start small. Create a home base. Create a local region. Craft a starting adventure. We have these, right? The creative process has taken us through this. We have our home base. We have our neighborhood. We even have populated it with NPCs. We are starting small before we have them branch out and go to other locations elsewhere in Ravnica and pursue danger and adventure and a life of crime against crime. All these initial steps, and the DMG will hold your hand through it. Set the stage. Involve the characters. Even from our brief synopsis, you should know why the characters actually care about what's gonna happen. Memory, I have so many of them that come up. Backgrounds are designed to root player characters of the world. We have this, and it's set and ready to go because of everything we've done. But I want to highlight that, look, it's here. Are you in writer's block, or are you a first-time DM and you're really wondering, oh my gosh, what should I do? I've never run before. How do I create a world? How do I create a campaign? It's right up here. It's all here for you in very plain, succinct verbiage. Very practical advice too, not just mechanics. This isn't just a book of charts and random numbers and illustrations. There is good experience and lore from tabletops that is shared here. I don't mean lore like, oh, and this was Paylor's first mace and the Disc of the Sun, and no, I'm talking lore from the tabletop. Experiences as DMs that are shared to you through the DMG. World-shaking events, well, it's world-shaking to our PCs. If you were really in a pinch, heck, here you go. You can generate what is going to start your campaign. And you can even challenge yourself. Make a completely random campaign without even all the setup that we've done so far over the course of the week. Go nuts. You can do it. You very much can. You may be looking at me like, Matt, I don't think so. What are you talking about? You don't know me. I don't, but you can do it. So, it talks about epochs and eras and cataclysms and all kinds of things to really get your hey, Cake Boss, really get your thinky bits going. Assault or invasion, rebellion, revolution or overthrow, extinction or depletion. We're playing now we're playing Small World. New organizations, discovery, it's all here for you, people. How to end a campaign. Goes over different types of play. Hack and slash, immersive storytelling, something in between, etc., and so forth. And also, this is something good for you to remember. As the levels are broken down by the abilities and the spells that you get access to by leveling up. Levels 1 to 4, your local heroes. The grandma who lives in, apartment 88411 knows you and might bake you a pie. The kids playing on the street down below know you and they might wave to you. When you when you hit levels 5 to 10, you broaden. You're now more heroes of the realm. So you're known not just in your block of the city, but you're known in the city, and I'm talking like the capital city. You might even be known by some people in distant cities or neighboring kingdoms or the like. By 11 to 16, you are masters of the realm. People people all around know you and respect you. Little kids in other villages might recognize you, not just the ones in your own hometown. And then we get to Masters of the World. 17 through 20 are your epic level adventures in 5th edition D&D. So bear that in mind for scaling as a DM. If we take this on some kind of an adventure here, right? So we have 1 to 4 local heroes, 5 to 10 heroes of the realm, 11 to 16 masters of the realm, and 17 through 20 masters of the world. Zawarodo. You're almost done making your Star Wars one-shot. That's awesome, Cake Boss. Do you have a group lined up ready to go through it when you finish? Uh-oh, Dark Wolf is dropping a surprise in Discord. Hey, look at that. So, here is the villain. Dark Wolf, thank you. Here is the villain of our the villain of our dungeon, who's going to be kind of our mid-boss character. That is very cool. That's Vidalkin awesome, Dark Wolf. That's so Vidalkin. Yeah, that is good stuff. Thank you, Awu. Now, memory lapse. This is what you were talking to. Yeah, if you wanna put it up, Cake Boss, you're welcome. This is what you're talking to Derek a little bit about, right? Heroic fantasy, sword and sorcery. What kind of fantasy do you want to run? And by the way, this chart is good for reference as well. If you're starting at higher levels. Hey Octogram, good to see you back. Kind of wondering though, as a DM, if all the PCs die while fighting the mid-boss, isn't that disappointing as a DM since they couldn't play out the entire campaign that you designed out? Yeah, it would be. But you know what? It happens. And it's up to you to guide a conversation in where does this go? Are they saved by Deus Ex Machina or some sort of MacGuffin or a Mary Sue character that comes in and saves the day? Are they somehow brought back to life? Do we retcon? Which retcon stands for retroactive continuity. In other words, we rewind and pick up at a certain point and make different decisions to go down a different path. Or do you look at your players and you say, it was a lot of fun? Believe me, I'm disappointed as well because I was looking forward to running this campaign. You know what, though? Let's build new characters, and we'll play a different campaign. It's fine. It happens. Don't feel bad. Maybe you'll see what would have happened, or the effects of what did happen after your character's deaths. You might even learn about it in the next campaign. It could be history. Who knows? Hi, AoE. Good to see you again, also. We're making a Magic the Gathering Ravnica setting campaign. No, that's fine, Cake Boss. So if any of you want to take a look at Cake Boss's, if any of you want to take a look at what Cake Boss has made for a Star Wars one-shot RPG session, it is over in our project workshop here. Cake Boss, I don't mind taking a look at it. It'll have to wait just a little bit as I get through the content of the DMG and we get some thoughts on paper about the D&D campaign. Also, who's broadcasting? Oh, okay, so there is Daily did put up a link earlier. Okay. Nice. Nice. You all are being so creative. You got the first version of your D&D character creation Python script to work. That's great. Hey, Derek. You need it. Derek, we're actually we just got to the part that you and Memory Lapse were talking about what kind of flavor of fantasy would you like. All right, Rhodium, have an awesome night, man. Thank you for stopping by. Okay. Well, I wasn't necessarily going. I wasn't going into detail because I'm getting to the part where we are going to be extracting elements of the campaign from the DMG. All right, so now we're gonna fast forward here to. Whoops, not 722. Oh my. Here we go. So the DMG will hold your hand through the process still and still further. Right? It's going over the beginning, the middle, and end, location-based adventures, and it's telling you, one, identify the party's goals. And we've done that already with the week's worth of work that we've put in up to this point. And when I say a week, look, I only broadcast maybe 4 or 5 hours a night, most nights. So we haven't been spending a ton of time on any of this. It's just, it's a little bit at a time, consistently over time, and you will build and build and build until you have a thriving world that you understand and compelling NPCs and villains, and you are ready to insert the PCs into it. Yes, SW is Star Wars. Cake Boss is making a Star Wars RPG one-shot. Octogram, I don't know what track you have playing into the background, but it really adds positively. Oh, I'm glad you like that. AoE says, are there any good Dragon Age role-playing games? Yes, there is a Dragon Age RPG. It was very interesting because the rule books were released kind of by level tier, if I recall correctly. And so you would have a rule book that would be for characters between levels like, I don't know, 1 and 4, and then 5 to 10, and then like 11 to 16, and then 17 to 20, or something along those lines. It was interesting because it was broken up like that. But there is a Dragon Age RPG game out there. What's one shot? So it is it's an adventure you play one time. It's not an ongoing campaign that takes weeks, months, or years to play through. It's one adventure you and your friends get together and you play once through. Oh, Santa, you're running a Dragon Age campaign, a campagna on Sunday evenings. All right, now we did this when we made our dungeon. Like, what is the point of it? Who who is responsible for the dungeon? There was a whole set that had random elements and charts that we put our Ravnican flair on. 5Geeks blog. Follow me if you want to live. Do it now. You already have. Thank you very much for that follow. We went through and we went through the villain making process. We have our adventure allies already picked out as well. through some prior work. Adventure patrons as well, because we went through the process of making NPCs. Consider the adventure introduction. What's going to happen? Right? In fact, here, while we've already done it, let's list it out, okay? Campaign goal. Pay off or otherwise have the eviction of the Undercity block stopped. Very simple. One sentence. It's a goal. You keep that in mind. It's a simple goal that you always strive towards. No matter where your story's wibbling, wobbling, back and forth, zigzagging, going all around. It acts as a lighthouse, as a beacon for you. The campaign goal is for the PCs to pay off or otherwise have the eviction of the Undercity block stopped. Villains. Pardon me. The Orzhov Syndicate. Especially Priest. We don't have a name for our villain. So-and-so. As well as the Obsessed Is It Summoner. This and that. Because we don't have him or her named either. Who is threatening the Undercity in another way. Adventure allies. So, we don't need to roll here because we already went through the process of identifying them, and for two of them, we really fleshed them out and made them awesome NPCs, in my opinion. So here we have our Demir facilitator. We have our Boros chaperone. We have a an Azorius magistrate. And and the fourth one was our villain. So, what would be a quick sentence here? PCs can buy or sell/fence information and items not otherwise accessible. Whoops. Chases the PCs occasionally, adding a constant push/threat on the board. However, he can be very helpful in certain circumstances. With knowledge or official contacts. The Azorius Magistrate holds the power to place an injunction on the eviction if certain legal loopholes, so like side quests, are fulfilled. Catching up. You want to call the main villain Priest Ovets and Summoner LeFou? This is so in theme with the Demir, I can practically taste the almonds. One of my favorite Ravnica quotes. Hey, Mr. Plunderloot, it's been a while. Good to see you back. Yeah. No. I got you, Derek. Adventure patrons. Former Orzhov priestess. What did we name her? Cindy Rose. Now a ghost after being retired by the syndicate. She gives the PCs an important clue, but can't directly discuss it as a part of her contract in Undeath. She gives them the key that can unlock evidence to be used against her own organization. As well as a patron. Let's see, we have... Who did we have here? Oh yeah, so Alley Runner was one of the so he's an adventure ally, an adventure patron. Arguably we could probably move the Azorius Magistrate under patron as well, since they're kind of a beginning, they're a quest giver and a quest ender in many ways. So there we go. Flesh out the location details, step 3. We got there. Location details. See Godless Shrine as a primary source of inspiration, as well as several other Ravnica Undercity cards. Undercity themed cards. Okay. Adventure Introduction. We can roll randomly. If you don't know what the hook, aka the hook, if you don't know what hook you wish to use for your adventure, they got you covered. You could roll a d12. Let's see, we got a 10. An NPC the characters respect asks them to go on to the adventure location. Could this have worked out any more perfectly? That person exists. Priestess Rose summons them and indirectly points them in the direction of the stack of eviction notices that are piling up in the chapel, indicating that many more have already been placed on neighborhood doors. And remember, our anti-hero PCs make a living by getting protection money from the neighborhood. If people don't live in the neighborhood, they don't get money. So they're also motivated by personal greed. And then how do we have an adventure climax? Let's roll a d12. We have an idea that it's going to come to almost a couple little twists at the end, because our main villain is actually understandable and might be the pawn of something bigger and better and greater. 2. The adventurers chase the villain while dodging obstacles being designed to thwart them, leading to a final confrontation out in or outside the villain's refuge. Perfect. That works. Nothing that we have done has been a bad choice. Chase through the area's main basilica to confront the pontiff. Unless they otherwise raise the money and avoid direct conflict. This is an important lesson. Don't always think that, something will come to blood. Oftentimes it can. That's usually the last resort, because you can start a fight anytime, anywhere. Consider, especially if you're doing this plotting as a DM, what happens if you have a bunch of social characters and none of them are especially good at fighting? Are you going to force a fight to the end? To the death? Could they bargain or negotiate their way down? And then you can plan your encounters. And in a way, this is almost like a prompt for the midpoint method that we've used before. Right? Here's some stuff to prompt your ideas. Here's your beginning, here's your end. Now you fill in the middle with what you've generated above. If we take the same idea, we can approach it from an event-based adventure and not just a location-based adventure. We start with our villain. Putting care into creating your villain will pay off later, since the villain plays such a pivotal role in advancing the story. We've already done that. We have our villain. So, 1, villain. Got there. 2, determine actions. Got there. We know what he's doing. The villain wants to evict this neighborhood on the surface. Meanwhile, we know that actually a Rakdos cultist has taken over, has taken like the shape and form or the identity of this Orzhov pontiff. And from the inside and through manipulating and trying to help the PCs, wants the PCs to bring down the Orzhov syndicate here in the neighborhood. So, big event, crime spree, we already got that. This guy right here, you don't worry about this guy right here. 3, party's goals. We know what the party's goals are. They want to stop everyone from being mercilessly evicted, as per the spell Merciless Eviction. Identify important NPCs. Got there. Anticipate the villain's reactions. Aha. This is important. We haven't quite done this yet. But you have to imagine, because the villain is willing to step up and actually be a bad guy, kind of an overt one too, his reactions are going to be just that. He's going to react to what he is actually manipulating the PCs to do. So his reactions might be genuine, or they could also be controlled and a part of his disguise. If the villain, remember, our villain kind of has two identities. Our villain is an Orzhov pontiff, as well as a Rakdos boss of some kind, okay? If the PCs take out the summoner, the Is-It summoner, do you think they're going to mind? If anything, he might do something extra nefarious to make sure that he still has their attention and keeps it. There might be times also where this Orzhov pontiff actually saves the PCs, because he actually does need them there to do their job. And when they finally come up and approach him about it, he can hold that over their heads and say, I saved your life on this occasion, this, and this occasion. Do not take my life. You owe me 2 now. 2 of yours. And I haven't even come asking or calling for it yet. Detail key locations. So actually generate your dungeon with rooms and hallways and doors and stairs and stuff. You can give more detail to the PC's hangout. You can do more to describe the neighborhood in which they live. 7. Choose an intro/climax. We did that above. And 8. Plan encounters. I am not so much a fan of the random encounter table, though we've talked about it. We've developed charts for it, and I have encouraged its use. It does have a place. I'm not being totally against it. But this plan encounters, it doesn't even just have to be fights. It could be they meet this NPC around this time in the story, after they've met someone else. Like, that's just the chain. No matter how long it takes, they're going to do this, and then they'll finally move on and meet so-and-so and hear back from who's it and what's it, etc. Now, this isn't going to be so much a mystery, but the DMG will help you flesh out a mystery story. If you want to run a D&D murder mystery, bingo, bango, bongo, there it is. Mystery and intrigue. You can have some kind of a framing event. For example, let's roll a percentile. 33. A council meeting. Well, that does kind of line up to this this ghostly former matron of the Orzhov is calling her, not the best students, maybe not the brightest students, but certainly two people she knows whose hearts are in the right place if only they could just get guidance. There are moral quandaries that you can insert into your campaign as well. In fact, moral quandaries are often more of a hard-won battle at the end of a campaign than an actual mechanical battle. And there are moral quandaries that are just baked right into what we have going. For instance, they corner this big fat cat Orzhov pontiff, and he makes the reveal, I'm not him, I actually killed him, and I've been doing all this stuff for you, don't kill me. They have to ask themselves, the PCs, do we actually just go through with it and kill him? What could be the repercussions? What could happen? And that's even if the PCs have the moral quandary to want to start a fight with this overbearing, overarching organization, and instead just want to do a bunch of side quests, earn money, save up, and pay off the debt to the Orzhovs in their place. Darkwolf says, random encounters lead to one of the best points of my campaign so far. Well, yeah, I'm not totally against them, Darkwolf. They have their place. They can be fun, especially because they are random. Diadems, I asked my niece what she thought of the random encounters in my world, and she said she liked them. I like to use them for long distance travel to ease the boredom. I completely understand, Diadems. I'm not anti random encounter. I just don't personally use them all that often. Hey, TJ Fate, good to see you. Twists? Well, we already have a twist baked into our campaign session, right? It's not actually an Orzhov pontiff. Dramatic chord. Dun. It was the Demir the whole time. Dun. And the Rakdos cultist that took the Orzhov pontiff's place was actually our Minotaur's mentor when he was still in a gang. Dun. And if you want to come up with side quests, bada boom, hey, forget about it. They're right here. This is the Dungeon Master's Guide, TJ. We're doing a by-the-book campaign plotting session. Said that keyboard. Yes, the Dungeon Master's Guide. DMG. So, objectives. Not everything has to be a battle of attrition where people just stand still until they fall down dead. You got me? Hello? McFly! Hello! Not everything has to be a knockdown, drag-out fight in D&D. In fact, sometimes running away from a battle, even one that you might be able to win, is a good way out. Your DM may still give you experience points if she or he uses those. So when it says plan encounters, look to these for inspiration. Don't just say, okay, it's a fight here, and a fight here, and a fight here, and a fight here. Oh, and there's going to be a fight here, and a fight here. Don't be afraid to ROLE play. Dramatic organ chord. Thank you very much, TJ. If you do want a combat encounter, here's how you do. It's all right there. Or, if you trust yourself as a DM, usually comes with experience, you don't necessarily mind this, and you just do something you think sounds cool. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me. So going through this now, we've looked at the same campaign through several different lenses, and I think we have a comfortable idea of where we want it to go and what we want it to do. So really, it would just be you plotting out the details, right? Here's an example. Here's an example order. Do you have to run this Ravnica campaign like this? Not, you don't have to. So they get word of eviction notices. Go to Azorius to get an injunction. Told they need proof of illegal activities. Find out they funded the Is-It boilers that are damaging the area. Infiltrate the Is-It dungeon. Confront mad scientist leader and learn a clue about the pontiff. Maybe it doesn't make sense just yet. They have to follow up on the clue through investigation. Oh, I'm sorry, pardon me. I was eating while broadcasting, and so my body's like, yes, food. All the blood is going to go to digest, and you're not going to have any for your noggin piece. Adventure and peace clues together, including one from the Wojek. Confront the pontiff and learn of the true nature of things. Having been replaced by Rakdos. And here's the moral decision. Moral decision about what to do with the replacement figure. He could be arrested by the Boros. They could be the injunction can go through on the Azorius and everything just passes. And maybe the Rakdos person owes him a favor. Wink, wink. We could have several different ends. Proof goes to Azorius to get injunction. Eviction ceases. Demir Facilitator, who was the true last boss the whole time and was actually helping them. Ish. Maybe he wasn't the last boss, but his faction was. Slinks off to plot something else anew. Lesson planning awaits. Oh, I didn't know you were a, or did I? Did I know you were a teacher or professor, TJ Fate? All the same, be well. Thanks for stopping by. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Mad Scientist is a little misleading with you, is it? Probably so. Also, Medusa and Petrifying Gaze. Oh, I accidentally... yeah. Yeah, exactly, TJ. Yep, plot twists. It was a Rakdos cultist who killed and took the role of an Orzhov pontiff. However, all of this was orchestrated by the Dimir. And seemingly only the Dimir know. And presumably the Dimir are happy with whatever the outcome is. You see, there's going to be a power vacuum. And a power vacuum necessitates leadership. And you know what leaders need? Information and weapons. Uh-huh. They also need their political leaders taken out. And which faction in Ravnica sells arms, brokers information, and does wet work? It's job security, my friend. All of this drama just to make sure that they remain relevant and that they have jobs. The Dimir are people too. Or they were people too at some point. They gotta have their system in place. When things get stagnant, business gets bad for them. They gotta keep the churn. They gotta keep the churn. And what better way to churn than to have the other guilds go at it and undermine each other and combat each other and to vie for power? Because the Dimir will always be there and they'll always be waiting and they'll always be ready to sell a secret, a handshake, a wink, and a whatever you want. They got it. Bing, 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 bing. Oh, let me scroll up. Bing, 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 bing. You want to know what the moral of this story is, kids? This is a shared goal between the PCs and the ultimate bad guys, the Dimir. Pigs get fed, hogs get taken for slaughter. And this story showcases pigs and hogs alike and the moral ramifications of the difference between the two. Does that make sense? Is it eerily poetic that the villain and the heroes, well, anti-heroes, the PCs and the villain are actually just doing the same thing? They just want to earn a buck day by day. They just want to be relevant. They just want to have job security. and maybe their voice be heard if they're in need. Meanwhile, the Rakdos, the Izzet, these other guilds, they get slaughtered because they're hogs. They want the glory. They want the territory. You know, first you get the money, then you get the women, and then you get the power. All the hogs get slaughtered. All the pigs get fed. You're with the program? I'm glad you're digging it, Golden. Does this help you all? Does this provide inspiration? Not just with Ravnica or like special Ravnican characters. Did this help with plotting? You know, Derek, if you're still around, Derek says he listens to songs and finds inspiration there. You can find a ton of inspiration in songs. You can also find inspiration in quotes. And if you keep the goal of the campaign a song lyric, like a line, a quote, something short and sweet like a honey-dipped dwarf, you'll always stay on track and advance towards your goal. Am I going to play this campaign? Probably not, Golden. I'm putting it out here so all of you can consider it if you'd like. And so here, pigs get fed, hogs get taken for slaughter. Now I just need to find a way to make a very cheeky pun about this to use as the campaign title, in so much that it is about, you know, Ravnica or guilds or something like that. Because that's what you do as an expert DM. Your campaign title is a pun. So there you go. Wasn't too tough. Even if you are a newbie DM, it's all in your reach. And you know what? Feeding Frenzy and Ravnica? I don't know. I don't know. I'll think about it. I'm going to get up and take about a 5-minute break. I forgot my pitcher of ice water, which is probably not icy anymore. I left my pitcher of ice water in the kitchen. I'm going to go and chug that. So I will be back in about 5 minutes, and we can go into open conversation. We can just have some fun. We can refine ideas. If you need help with something in your own game, I'm open to do that. But I really enjoyed this conversation, showing you that you can go buy the book and have great and have a great time. You don't need experience. The book will help you, and it's put in very simple terms. It holds your hand through the process to create a compelling story. Hey, Cake Boss. Well, I'm going to take a 5-minute break myself. So you all stick around a little bit, and we'll come back for part 3, okay?